that we're less than. And I'm reminded this morning of the story of David and Goliath. And for years, I've understood David being the underdog. I've understood David being the little shepherd boy with an impossible situation. Well, I don't quite see it that way anymore. As I study, and I want you to look with me with the story of David and Goliath. And I want to continue the series this morning on the blessing blockers and how to live life powerfully and how to overcome and how to be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might, how to conquer demons and devils and demonic activity and walk in victory and walk as an overcomer and walk in your greatness today. So go with me, if you would, to 1 Samuel chapter 17. Let's look at verse 23. Let's read.
And as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words, and David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him, and were sore afraid. And the men of Israel said, Have ye seen this man that is come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up. And it shall be that the man who killeth him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. And David spoke to the men that stood by him, saying, What shall be done to the man that killeth this Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God?
Stop right there. Okay, I want you to get this story here. Now, everyone lived in the mountains, and in the mountains were the safe place. It was a safe haven. But the armies wanted to come against Israel, and they wanted to conquer and take over the territory and split the kingdom. And in order to do that, they had to win, and this was a battle against the nations. Yes. And so with this battle against the nation, they would come down to the valley, to the plain, and have a combat, a one-on-one, and whoever wins, they are the victor. Yes. And so Saul was looking for someone to send down to fight the Philistines, and he couldn't find anyone. So he says, listen, I'll offer up a reward. I'll offer up the person that takes out him, hey, his house will be paid for. He don't have to worry about any money. He don't have to worry about his light bill or anything, his mortgage, and plus he's gonna get my beautiful daughter. So here is a opportunity for those who want to get tired of living in poverty or living without. Here's an opportunity to live large and big. And so David, because of his experience and because of his relationship with God, David saw an opportunity. And you know, we see David as this guy that was young and impossible to conquer Goliath, and he's the underdog. Well, I'm not so sure that that is the case, because here this big galoot giant comes down. He can't hardly see well. He's so awkward, got all of this armor on, and he's dressed, has swords and spears and all of this. And he's so big that they had to, the scripture says they had to lead him by the hand, had to lead him down to the place of battle. And David, swift and moves fast, trained, an expert with a slingshot. Now, not the slingshot that we know today that I played with. There was this slingshot that I played with that you put a rock in it and you pull it back on a rubber band, pow! Not that kind of slingshot. David was a skilled slinger. Now, a slinger was one that had the ability to put a rock in this device of his in this sleeve, or this device, I should say. And the slinger would take this rock, and they were so skilled at it that they could just swerve round and around and around. And in midair, bam, knock down a bird. They were just that skillful. Well, David was that kind of guy. But we don't understand that. We see David as this poor, ruddy kid that's going to go up against this big old giant. Even Saul saw him like that, because the whole strategy was to fight him at a distance. But that was David's strategy. But the way it was designed was that David was to do one-on-one combat. So the reason why it was so amazing for David, this little kid, to get close to this big giant that says, come to me, who had a difficult time even seeing. He was, you know how you have those big individuals that in reality there's some handicap to them, because he was 7 foot tall, 7 feet tall, big, huge guy. And so now he says, come to me, tell David, so I can take your life, or so I can kill you. But David was smart enough to fight him in a distance, because history says that David was the underdog, but in reality, David was a skilled individual. He was an anointed individual, and he knew that God had his best interests at heart, and he knew the reward that was available to him. I'm here to tell you today, if you're going to conquer over the blessing blockers that want to hinder you, you got to see the reward for conquering them. Because if you don't see a benefit in it, you will never, never conquer it. If you just see, well, I got to just do this here. I got to live for God. God, I got to live, and I'm going to do my best. I'm going to shoot my best shot. Well, you're not going to do well. But when you see the reward in your victory, when you see the benefit of your victory, when you see yourself conquering in the midst of difficulties, and you see the benefit plain, then you arise to the occasion. Because David says, where is that uncircumcised giant? Where is that rascal? Because I'm coming. He may come to me with swords and sticks and spears, but I'm coming, and I'm coming in the name of the Lord. Let's read verse 32.
Verse 32. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. And David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear and a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him and smote him and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and smote him and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God.
Stop right there. So now here he jumps up and says, after he hears the benefit of it, David jumps up and says, hey, I'll fight him. And so Saul says, hey, you're just a little kid. You can't do that. And so David says, I'm going to give you my armor. I'm going to put it on you, and I'm going to send you out, and you're going to fight with my armor because mine's anointed. And so David puts on the armor, and comes to find out, David realizes that this armor is not going to fit him. He realized that it hadn't been proven. In other words, I hadn't done anything with this armor. Plus, my strategy is not to get close to that rascal. My strategy is to fight him at a distance. So he says, this armor has not been proven. And he says, but you know what? I want you to know I'm ready to do battle. I'm ready to conquer him. I'm ready to defeat him. Because I remember how God was for me. I remember that God was on my side. I remember back in the day when I was out there with the sheep, and the sheep was out there by himself, and that bear came along, and that lion came and began to grab him and had him in his mouth. And I went over and I got so angry at him, and I said, you bear, you lion, let him loose. And ripped them apart. And he said, I remember how God anointed me. I remember my past victories. I remember how I overcame. I remember how I conquered. And I'm here to tell you today, you got to remember your past victories. When all hell is breaking loose in your life, when all hell is unfolding in your life, and there's trials and there's difficulty and you're facing a difficult time, you got to remember the past victories, how God brought you out in times past. You got to remember how God was for you. You got to remember that if God is for you, everybody else might as well be. You might as well then know that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that you can ask or think, according to his power that's ready and willing and able to work with you. And you can rise as an overcomer, strong in God and the power of his might, because you're going to have on the whole armor of God to stand against demons and devils. You're going to get dressed for success. You're going to get dressed to impress, and you're going to be dressed better than the rest. Somebody ought to put those hands together and give God praise. So he remembered his past victories. So often we forget what God has done for us. So often we get present to the circumstances, and it paralyzes us and freezes us from seeing what's possible, seeing that God is able, seeing that God was with us before, seeing what God did for Reverend Dr. R.J. Lightsey, seeing what God has done for Reverend Michael Davis in time. But God is no respecter of person. If he brought him out, he'll bring me out. I know that God is for me, and I know that God will see me through, because if he loves Dr. R.J. Lightsey, he's no respecter of person. If he loves Michael Davis, he's no respecter of person. God loves me, and what he's done for them, I'm next in line. Glory be to God. You got to know you're next in line. Just as First Lady, God honored her and blessed her and opened the windows of heaven and gave her more than enough in this season. I'm here to tell you, to declare that I'm next in line, and every demon and every devil and every blessing blocker that's hindering me from receiving what I know God promised me from a little child. For God promised me as I was walking through life, what God showed me a vision. I'm going to hold on to my dream, because just as Bradella Hall Walker held on to her dream, I'm going to hold on to my dream, because I seen that God did it for her, and I know I'm next in line. He going to do it for me. So you got to remember your past victories. Never, never forget your past victories. Remember the song that John sung a few weeks ago? What God has for me is for me. So you got to know that what God has for you. But you got to know what God has for you. Because if you don't, you won't even know when you get it. What's this? Well, by the way, that's what you've been believing God for. Remember back then? Oh, thank you. You got to keep the vision ever before you. The vision has to motivate you. The vision has to drive you. The dream has to be in your spirit. It has to be part. You have to have it within your spirit. You got to breathe and think in the things of your vision. Let's read.
Verse number 36. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God. David said, moreover, the Lord hath delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear. He will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with thee. And Saul armed David with his armor, and put an helmet of brass upon his head. Also he armed him with a coat of mail. And David girded his sword upon his armor, and he essayed to go, for he had not proved it. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. And David put them off him. And he took his staff in his hand, and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag which he had, even in a scrip. And his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. And the Philistine came on and drew near unto David. And the man that bare the shield went before him. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth, and ruddy, and of a fair countenance. And the Philistine said unto David, Am I a dog that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods.
Now, listen to this. He is taunting him. He is taunting David. He's saying to him, David, look at me. I'm a warrior. Look at all of what I have. Look at my sword, my spear. Man, you don't stand a chance at. And I'm sure if I could surmise, he was sitting there saying, nah, I'm gonna get you, little ruddy redhead rascal. I'm going to get you. So he was taunting him, and he was trying to intimidate him. And I'm here to tell you today that demons and devils are out to intimidate you. They out to intimidate you so you can feel like you are inadequate, feel like you are not able to conquer, feel like you're less than. They are out to intimidate you. Do not let demons and do not let devils and let no individuals intimidate you, that you feel less than, that you feel like you're a loser, that you feel like you can't win. I'm here to tell you, Muhammad Ali was one of the greatest fighters of all time because he intimidated his opponent. I'm here to tell you it's a strategy that demons and devils uses against you to keep you from moving into your greatness, to keep you from soaring high, to keep you from believing in what is possible, to get you to believe that you can't do it by intimidation. That's a strategy of Satan. And say to the devil, I refuse to be intimidated by any demonic force, any satanic spirit, any demonic activity against me. I refuse, because I know who I am and I know whose I am. And I'm more than a conqueror through Jesus Christ, who went down to hell and stripped the devil of all of his power and authority and came up out of that grave saying, all power, all power, all power in heaven and earth has been given to me, and he gave me authority. He gave me keys. He gave me the power to declare and decree what's possible. And I'm going to open up my mouth and say, devil, I'm coming, and I'm coming in the name of the Lord. And I'm more than a conqueror, and I'm not going to be intimidated. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up, but I'm coming, and I'm coming in the name of the Lord. Da, 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 da. Charge. He refused to be intimidated, and you must refuse to be intimidated. Don't let anyone or anybody intimidate you, because it will set you back. Ask First Lady. First Lady would have, we understand God's timing, but First Lady, I watched her struggle. I watched this awesome, powerful woman of creativity and greatness. I watched her be intimidated by what people say. Who told you you could sing? We traveled, just about killed my ministry, because most of you know that I traveled as a full-time evangelist with the Assemblies of God and had a 9-member team that traveled with me. And my darling, darling baby was my lead singer. And the enemy messed with her to the degree that she didn't think she had it. And she quit. And for nothing in the world, I could encourage her to sing, because of what the enemy had put intimidation on her. But I just continue to pray and continue to believe God. And today, to see how God has just elevated her, where she says, I'm coming up. I want the world to know. And to tear up her place.